Top 5 Iconic Things with Criminal Beginnings. Some of the most famous things in the world got their start by people being in the wrong place at the wrong time. One does not have to be a great person to do great things. Some of these people were the victims of crimes. Others instigated the wrongdoings. Either way, once the trouble settled, the following 5 people went on to shape the world. 5. The Travels of Marco Polo. Physically confined, Marco Polo's only freedom was in his mind. He could recall plenty of adventures. In 1269, Polo traveled across Asia. 24 years later, he finally returned to his native Venice. Before he arrived, Venice declared war on neighboring Genoa. Barred from entering the city, Polo and his crew assaulted Genoan authorities. In prison for the attack, Marco Polo passed the time by telling his cellmate, Rustichello of Pisa, of his exploits in China. Rustichello wrote down the tales that eventually became the travelogue, The Travels of Marco Polo. To entertain themselves, Polo and Rustichello made some facts up. A bestseller immediately upon release, audiences were exposed to Asian cultural norms for the first time, like paper money and pasta. Additionally, they learned of mysterious lands inhabited by cannibals, unicorns, and people with dog-shaped heads. Polo's detailed account of Kublai Khan's stately pleasure dome have inspired people for centuries, even outside of pool party attendees. Artists, like the equally talented Samuel Taylor Coleridge and Olivia Newton-John, based works on Polo's exploits. Christopher Columbus' heavily dog-eared copy was a motivating factor for his historic 1492 voyage. 4. The Periodic Table of Elements. There's a reason his title was King Augustus the Strong, and not Augustus the Smart. In 1701, the Polish monarch was tricked by small-time con artist Johann Friedrich Butker. Butker's signature trick as a magician was pulling out 2 silver coins, which then disappeared and reappeared as a single gold piece. Augustus the Strong took this as proof that Butker had mastered the art of alchemy. To preserve the scientific breakthrough, Augustus jailed the magician until he revealed his secrets. Of course, Butker was caught in a lie. Angered that he was bamboozled, Augustus the Strong threatened to execute Butker. To spare his life, Butker made up a new lie. European leaders had long wanted to end China's monopoly on porcelain. Butker claimed he knew how to make it. Luckily for Butker, he teamed up with Ehrenfried Walter von Schönhaus, one of the few European scientists researching porcelain. Walter von Schönhaus pioneered a special oven that could melt porcelain down. The duo discovered it was comprised of kaolin clay and feldspar rock. Instead of securing his freedom, Butker's insight was so valuable he was placed under even stricter security. The ability to manufacture porcelain immediately reshaped the European and Chinese trade balance. However, the true consequences of the demand became evident only decades later. Feldspar mines opened around the continent. One of them, Sweden's Ytterby mine, had unique geologic deposits that produced distinct pigments, a sure sign of lanthanides. Samples chemist Johann Gadolin isolated 7 elements from Ytterby, now bearing the name of the Swedish village. The unearthed elements filled key missing gaps Dmitry Mendeleev needed to finalize the periodic table. 3. Hip-hop. A literal divine spark formed hip-hop. Record-setting heat waves, routinely above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, cooked New York City in a crucible. Blasting air conditioners strained the electrical grid. When 2 lightning strikes flooded the system on July 13, 1977, the surge was too strong. The city was plunged into darkness. The numbers from the ensuing chaos are absurd. For 25 hours, the city was thrown into a blackout. It was quickly illuminated by rioters' flames. Arsonists set 1,037 fires that night. In total, $300 million was lost in damages. 3,776 people were taken into custody in the largest mass arrest in the city's history. Groundbreaking musician DJ Grandmaster Caz contends that the subsequent looting was the driving force behind early hip-hop mass adoption. A new crop of DJs got their hands on expensive sound equipment that they otherwise could not afford. Dozens of poorer potential rappers first experimented on stolen mixers. Stereo systems were in such demand that night that DJ Disco Wiz and his partner Grandmaster Caz pulled guns on people trying to rob them. Crazy Eddie's electronics chain stationed 8 men on the roof to shoot at any potential thieves. The blackout did not create the genre. Kool Herc had already hosted his legendary block parties prior to the power failure. It merely exploded it. The resulting bounty democratized the sound throughout all 5 boroughs and eventually, the world. 2. Superman. Jerry Siegel lost his hero, so he made a new one. In 1932, his father, Mitchell Siegel, was assaulted. A Jewish immigrant from Lithuania, Mitchell started a small second-hand clothing store. Around 8 o'clock at night, 3 men attempted to rob the enterprise. They fired 2 shots at Mitchell. Luckily, both missed the shop owner, but it was still lethal. The fright caused by the shooting prompted a fatal heart attack. 1 year later, Jerry Siegel sketched the first Superman adventure. It appropriately depicts the Man of Steel rescuing a shopkeeper from muggers. Other elements of the comic book character echo Siegel's own tragic backstory. Both lost their father at a young age. The first power ever featured was invulnerability to bullets. In a curious coincidence, a letter appeared in the Cleveland Plain Dealer the day after Mitchell Siegel passed. The author of the letter rejected the newspaper's call for vigilante justice. He wrote that the average person did not need a protector to enact justice. The letter was written by a man with the ironic name, L. Luthor. 1. Kentucky Fried Chicken. Colonel Sanders is fictional. Harlan Sanders was real. The genteel poultry magnate dressed in a bespoke white suit is a caricature, an abstraction. The actual Harlan Sanders was a vengeful short-tempered man. The only thing the company got right is that he sure loved fried chicken. Residents referred to North Corbin, Kentucky as Hell's Half-Acre. Bootleggers ran the city through intimidation. One of the few legitimate operations was a Shell gas station where Sanders served food. Local rival, Matt Stewart, ran his own chain of restaurants. To get a leg up on the competition, Stewart painted his own slogan over Sanders' billboards. Sanders could not tolerate such flagrant disrespect. Fittingly, Sanders was no chicken. Gun-toting Sanders drove to confront Stewart. 2 accompanying Shell officials, Robert Gibson and H.D. Shelburne, waited in the wings. Upon arrival, Stewart shot Gibson in the chest. Sanders picked a revolver off the dying man. Both he and Shelburne fired back. Shelburne's shot hit Stewart's thigh, Sanders' shoulder. Both men were cleared off all charges. With his main adversary serving an 18-year sentence in prison, Sanders was free to invest in a standalone restaurant. Sanders' name went on to become synonymous with one of the most successful companies in history. Not a chest beater, Stewart never felt any guilt for killing Gibson. Gibson's family responded by paying a deputy 2 years later to assassinate Stewart in jail. Thank you for watching.